Every year around this time, I see so much of this new year, new style energy. And I completely get it because the new year feels like the perfect time to start fresh. However, after setting intentions for the past 6 years, one thing I've learned is that if your goals and resolutions are about becoming a whole different person in 2026, then you're probably going to let go of most of them by February. Now, in 2025, I managed to achieve most of my style intentions, and that is because they were much more focused on actions and behaviors rather than buying this or not buying this or that thing. And so I wanted to share with you the key intentions that I am taking myself into 2026, why they matter to me, and also a little bit about how I've set them, how I've come to them in a way that will hopefully help you to set your intentions as well. So grab your favorite drink and let's dive right in. So the first style intention is probably the overarching theme of 2026, and that is to stop relying on shopping for dopamine and basically just not give my clothes and shopping as much power over myself. You might have noticed yourself scrolling or even buying things whenever you're stressed, whenever you're bored, sad, or sometimes even happy, right? And we often have this very weird relationship between our emotions and our shopping habits. And in 2025, I definitely noticed that this relationship was actually quite strong. And this year, I actually want to separate the two. I can enjoy shopping without making it mean anything, without using it to regulate myself in any way. And at the same time, I don't want to give clothes and shopping, or not shopping, the power to dictate my mood. So in my next video, I'm going to tell you everything about my no-buy year, why I'm actually doing this in a bit more detail, all of the rules and exceptions that I'm going to use, and all of that. But the key really is that this year, unlike my no-buy in 2019, it's not about willpower and completely transforming myself. It is just much more about noticing a habit that I'm not necessarily super happy about and then doing something about it this year. You might be wondering, how are you going to deal with feelings of boredom when you're not buying anything? And this is where resolution number 2 actually comes in handy. And that is that I'm going to create weekly capsule wardrobes on Index, and then I'm only going to create outfits from there. So one of my reflections when I did the Style Intentions workshop is that I realized that whenever I was traveling for maybe short periods of time, up to a week, and I had a limited wardrobe, limited amount of items, getting dressed was actually really easy for me. Now, does it mean that I had the very best outfits all the time? Not really, but at the same time, there was no decision fatigue. I could just wake up and I have 3 tops and 2 bottoms to choose from, and that was really, really easy for me. So obviously, when it comes to a full week, I'm not just going to use 3 tops and 2 bottoms, and I've already completed my first weekly capsule this week, and it's been such a game changer so far. So I selected 10 tops, 7 bottoms, a couple pair of shoes, some bags, some coats and jackets. So as a whole, it's actually quite a large capsule. It's definitely not the amount of clothes I would travel with, but still compared to the size of my wardrobe, it's a really, really small chunk. So I noticed a couple of things this week, and the first one was that I was actually a lot faster when it comes to dressing up. It literally took me about 2 minutes to put together an outfit. And secondly, even if the outfit wasn't the very best outfit I could come up with if I used my entire wardrobe, it actually opened me up to being more creative, to maybe using accessories a bit differently, to try layering pieces that I would have never layered. And I had such a fun time, and I feel so good about it so far. So I'm probably not going to be doing a weekly capsule every single week of the year, but my goal is to do this most weeks and rotate between different clothes in my wardrobe. So not only can I actually use everything, but I also save myself the decision fatigue of operating from a very large wardrobe. Resolution number 3 is related to another pain point that I found in 2025, and that was that I felt like I didn't necessarily have outfit formulas for days when I was really tired, days when I was in a really bad mood, days when I was going to work, and so on. So basically, I didn't have outfit formulas for different levels of formality and different moods. And especially when it came to going to the office, which I hadn't really done before 2025, I often found myself creating an outfit in a little bit of a rush. And because of that, ending up with an outfit where maybe half of the time I didn't actually feel good in, but because I was in the office, I couldn't really change out of. And I realized that the days in the office, aren't necessarily the days when I want to be my most creative self or when I want to try a new combination or anything like that. I would leave those for my work from home or casual days. And I'm going to create outfit formulas and just maybe even 10 outfits that I can repurpose whenever I'm traveling for a few days, whenever I am presenting in front of people and all of that. Same thing, I want to have some outfit formulas for when I'm going to brunch, whenever I am feeling really, really unwell, really tired, maybe not in the mood to create anything. I want to have outfits that actually support me. And so I think that using Index for that is my favorite place. You can create collections. I can already put some outfits that I've worn that worked really well. So I think for me, this is going to be a little bit more about curating and trying on maybe a couple of extra things, but really about curating and then actually using those outfits whenever I am in that scenario or whenever I am feeling that way. And that actually leads me nicely to resolution number 4, and that is to actually plan more outfits in Index. So I have a difficult relationship with planning because on the one hand, I can absolutely see how impactful and how useful it can be when you don't have to think about things. On the other hand, I also sometimes feel very restricted when I have everything planned and everything considered. I feel like I'm not being creative and I'm not being free to actually change things. And that's when I realized that I can create my own version of planning. And it doesn't mean that I go one way or another, completely unstructured or planning everything for the next 5 days. Now, my version of planning means that whenever I feel inspired, I'm just going to recreate some Pinterest outfits or put some outfits together. And then I've made a collection on Index that literally says, try these outfits on. So I have a bank of outfits that I haven't tried just yet, but they are outfits that are ready for me to try. They're ready for me to just put on, maybe fix a little bit, and then go. And I found that in 2025, I did this a couple of times. And whenever I planned the outfit, planned things, how they're going to go together, recreated maybe an image or an idea that I had in my head, it really made getting dressed so much easier and also really fun for me as well. And so what I realized is that planning doesn't have to be restrictive. I don't have to put the outfits and the specific days. I think that's too much for me. But at the same time, having a bank of outfits is actually really helpful. And going back to resolution number 2, which is about creating those weekly capsules, what I've started doing now, I am in week 2, I've just made the new capsule. I actually went and created 10 sort of base outfits that I can iterate from. So I've planned some ideas and I may end up wearing some of them and not wearing the others, and that's completely fine. But I'm trying to break that relationship in my head of planning is rigid and planning is too much structure because I don't want to rebel against it. I want to use the benefits of it. Now, I want to just pause here and say that I didn't come up with those intentions by scrolling Pinterest or just journaling for a few minutes and deciding that these are my intentions. I actually ran a style intentions workshop last week, and we used a set of reflection questions that are very much sequenced in a way that guides you from the more surface level observations all the way to some really, really deep understandings and reflections about what worked and what didn't work in 2025. So if you want to spot some of the patterns that maybe you kept repeating in 2025, some of the habits that maybe worked or didn't work for you, and anything that you may want to change in 2026, then I'll leave the Style Intentions workshop replay below for you. Now let's go back into the video. Resolution number 5 might actually surprise you because I have actually showed a lot of colorful outfits and colorful pieces in 2025. And one thing I've learned about myself is that visually, I am very drawn to color. I love bold outfits, mixing prints, mixing colors, color blocks, layering, and all of that kind of visual interest. But whenever I've tried to actually wear those outfits out and about, I always feel like they're not 100% me. And I think it was maybe towards the end of 2025 when I figured out that I also have the moon style route alongside sun. And whenever I lean too much into darkness or too much into brightness and color, I don't actually feel like myself. And I need something in between. And so that can mean, for example, mixing 3 different prints, but all of the prints are actually kind of dark. And so the contrast is not that high. or wearing a lot of colors, but they're all different shades and there is some darker and some lighter ones. And basically that is how I would use color intentionally. So in some videos, I might show you how I'm mixing 4 or 5 different colors, and that is more for illustration purposes, but it is not actually how I would put my everyday outfits together. And so it's not about giving up color, going all beige and minimalist. I am definitely not about that life, but it's just about finding that balance that is really correct for me, and just also stop forcing myself to wear a lot of my colorful pieces all together, because I know that it just doesn't feel exactly right whenever I do it. My next intention is something that I have never done before, and that is to rewear my favorite 2025 outfits on purpose. So there are 2 reasons why I actually haven't done this in the past, and one is more logistical. I wasn't very good at taking photos and documenting what I was wearing, so it was actually really hard to recreate something that I couldn't exactly remember. But I think much more than that, I actually had this block of outfit repeating.
Why you are an outfit repeater?
I think that there was so much shame a couple of years ago in recreating the same outfit, repeating pieces, and just kind of rewearing your things. But I think that now this has actually changed quite a bit. People want to see more realistic wardrobes, in the sense of not always bringing new things and styling new things, but actually rewearing the same pieces in different ways. And I think that in 2025, I have created at least 30 outfits that I really, really like. And so what I'm going to do this year is actually every month maybe pick 2 or 3 outfits from the past year that I just want to rewear again. And yeah, it might mean that I maybe change the tights or the shoes or maybe add some different jewelry, and that's fine. But I want to have the same outfit so I can actually see whether anything has changed, whether this outfit still makes me feel good, and if not, to actually try and figure out why. Because I think as people, we're constantly evolving, and our favorite outfits and how we feel about them can also teach us a lot. This next resolution is something that I really want to get better at in 2026, and that is decluttering only after styling a piece for 10 minutes. I think that decluttering is such a complex topic, especially this time of the year, because there is so much push to let go of everything you haven't worn and then maybe bring some pieces that feel more aligned. I know that I have made decluttering regrets in the past, where I've let go of something and then I actually wish I still had it. And at the same time, I've also had pieces that I've kept for way too long, even though I knew they weren't my style. And so what I want to do this year, and it's something that I started a little bit in 2025, but it's definitely not a perfected process, is that I want to take a piece that I am considering decluttering, let's say if it's a skirt, trying it on with 5-10 different tops, trying it tucked in, trying it layered, trying it in so many different ways to actually see, am I just bad at styling this piece? Or is it truly something that is wrong with this piece and that it just doesn't belong within my wardrobe? And I think that decluttering and styling are both skills. And I think that when you're decluttering, you have to give your clothes a fair chance. And there were so many times when the first time I create an outfit with a piece, I don't love the outfit. It's not my best outfit. And if I make the decision to let go of something just after 1 or 2 wears, I don't think that is actually giving it a fair chance. And so I have a couple of pieces, for example, this pair of pink trousers and this beige skirt, that I am 50-50 about. And you have to remember that every single piece that is now in your wardrobe originally made you smile, made you excited, and it had an intention, it had a vision in your head, right? How you're going to incorporate it. And so I'm going to try to go back and see, is the vision still aligned for this piece? And if not, how can I actually use this in a way that makes sense for me right now? The next intention is something that I actually want to let go of, and that is the belief that I always have to define the waist. So this year, I definitely dove a lot deeper into the body matrix system and just kind of how different fabrics, different silhouettes interact with the body. And after having my essences analyzed and also understanding my body matrix, I fully understand that when I go with a very lightweight, flowy piece, such as those boho dresses, and then I don't define the waist, on me, on my bone structure and facial structure, that looks really, really unkempt. Like, it doesn't look cool and boho. it just looks like I'm wearing a big nightgown and not in the good way, right? And that's okay. I have to accept that that's not the look that I'm going for, and I'm not a huge fan of those pieces anyway, so there's no reason for me to wear these styles. However, I still want to try not defining the waist. And I've recently found a dress that actually has structure. So it's not made of this flimsy, clingy fabric or very flowy fabric. It's this scuba neoprene fabric. So it's still very soft, very comfortable, but it actually stays on its own. And that's made me really excited because I actually think it doesn't look bad on me. Let me know what you think, but I actually quite like myself in this dress. And I don't have this deep pull to actually cinch in the waist. And I think part of that is actually accepting that my mountain style route really plays with structure and enjoys a little bit of stiffness and structure. It's definitely something that I've worked a lot on in 2025. And I think in 2026 is just letting go of this belief that I always have to look the smallest. I always have to look the most flattering for myself. And I do know that showing my waist is probably going to make me look slimmer or is going to make me look more flattering, but that is not always the effect that I'm going for. And so if I want to feel powerful and strong, like feelings that I actually want out of my outfits, I have to sometimes forgo defining my waist. Resolution number 9 is something that I have made an entire video about, and that is to continue using the TB color wheel to create outfits for different moods. Now, if you've watched that video, I have shown you how using different colors can actually bring different emotions, different feelings to the surface, and how, for example, certain colors can calm down an outfit while other colors can actually inject it with energy. And I think especially in the last couple of months since I did this video, I started to just tune into myself a lot more. For example, when I was traveling by train, I asked myself, how do I want to feel? And the answer was put together, but really comfortable and relaxed. So I chose to go with this navy polo jumper and then with this purplish, grayish knit midi skirt. So the shapes and the fabrics were really comfortable, but then the navy added that put togetherness and the grayish purple added that sense of relaxation. And so I felt really good in that outfit because it matched my need for low sensory input, for feeling calm, but still put together, not looking sloppy. And I know, for example, that if I paired it with a gray sweatshirt or something like that, or I wore track pants, I would feel comfortable, but mentally it wouldn't actually match the desire and the mood that I was in. And so I want to make some more videos about how I use the TB color wheel to match my mood. So let me know if this is something that you're interested in hearing more about. But it's definitely one of the most useful tools I found for myself to actually fix my outfits. And for example, if I'm wearing a lot of color and I'm actually not in a very high energy state, I would often replace maybe a colorful shoe with a black one or vice versa. If I'm feeling really good and energetic, I'm actually allowing myself to just go all out, wear a lot of color, wear a bright lipstick and all of that. And I understand now why I'm actually going for certain choices on different days. And last but not least, my final intention is to actually continue tracking my outfits. It's something that I started doing early in 2024, and I actually want to achieve at least 95% wardrobe utilization ratio. Now, last year I achieved 95%, so this is why I am aiming at 95. I do realize that 100 is probably unrealistic, and having a really large wardrobe like I do with over 500 pieces of clothing, accessories, jewelry, and so on, it's not something that's actually going to be very easy. But I want to make sure that I am utilizing my wardrobe's full potential, because you have heard probably of the 80-20 rule, right? That we use 20% of our items 80% of the time. And when I looked at my most worn pieces of 2025, I could definitely see that I default to one bag or two bags. I have two pairs of shoes that I reach for super often. I have a couple of tops that I wear very often, and then everything else had one wear. And while there is nothing wrong with that, I also feel like some of my favorite pieces are getting a little bit too used up very quickly because I wear them so often, while other pieces are staying unloved, even though though they actually can fulfill exactly the same function. And so I want to fall in love back with my wardrobe and just experience those pieces that I have literally paid money for. So I want to just enjoy my wardrobe in 2026, use it to create capsules, to create outfits, to create different moods, and not actually pressure myself to wear them. I don't want to do that in 2025. And so 95% is the goal, but even if I end up wearing 70% and being really happy with it, then that's going to be okay for me. But I also need to know that I am aiming somewhere, so then I can actually make sure to rotate the pieces I'm using and then use everything that I have to create my outfits. And I hope you can see how all of those intentions are actually very much linked to 2025. Everything that is on this list came from looking at the past, seeing some of the patterns, and deciding that I don't want to do that next year. I want to change something, I want to add something, or I want to actually continue doing something. And so if you want to see my entire process of all the reflection questions that I ask myself and then how I turned those reflections into style intentions, I'll leave the style intentions workshop below for a couple more days. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're also going to enjoy this one, so I'll see you there.